war in Ukraine now runs on seconds, not steel, and the first clue is a smokescreen that moves like a blade. A Bradley surges in first, throws smoke, and pours steady 25mm fire to pin the line and pull eyes off the main threat. Seconds later, an Abrams receives clean UAV coordinates, levels the gun, and cracks a strong point with one shot, then drops the structure with the next. That rhythm, suppress with Bradley, destroy hard targets with Abrams, repeats across the map and turns solid walls into short-lived cover engines. Roar, optics blink, and the ground that looked safe suddenly belongs to the side that links scouts, armor, and fires in one short kill chain. Cheap eyes in the sky whisper to big guns on the ground, and those whispers open doors that stay ajar just long enough for a clean hit. Stay with this report to see how suppression becomes collapse, how timing beats mass, and how precision steals distance in a single minute. Like, share, and subscribe to Military Force so you never miss the next turn in this fight. Bradley-led assaults work because suppression arrives first and precision follows close behind. A wall of smoke rolls forward and cuts sightlines, and that gray cover lets the infantry fighting vehicle rush the edge without eating return fire. Gunners keep the Bushmaster 25mm hot at roughly 200 rounds per minute, and that steady beat forces heads down and sensors blind. The hull stays moving while the turret walks bursts across firing slits, and the vehicle keeps distance tight so dismounts can reach solid corners. Commanders call this a tempo tool because each second gained near the target makes the next shot cleaner and safer. Thermal sights sweep doorways and windows, and any muzzle flash draws an instant string of hits that pins the line in place. Dismounts flow to stairwells and alleys, and the IFV pivots to screen them with short, accurate bursts that deny a counterpush. Overhead, a small scout drone watches the strong point and feeds clean coordinates down the net. The crew in the Abrams receives that grid without delay, and the gunner sets elevation and lead while the driver holds a stable hull. One armor-piercing round lands where the coordinates say it should, and a hard point that looks solid turns out to be fragile. A fast second shot finishes the job, and the structure folds as dust lifts and the lane opens for the assault team. That rhythm, pressure first, demolition second, keeps risk low because it removes the need to trade bodies for bricks. It also shortens the sensor-to-shooter loop, since the same drone that finds the target can confirm the hit in real time. The result is a clear handoff that often fits inside a single minute, and a target window that stays open only as long as needed. Crews train to make the first round count, and when the lay is right, the probability of a clean first impact rises sharply. Even when the enemy moves to a secondary firing point, the gun can walk back on with minimal correction because the sight picture is stable. Survivability improves because suppression denies the enemy a chance to aim, and precision denies him a second chance to shoot. The IFV protects the approach, the tank deletes the bunker, and the squad moves through before smoke thins and angles return. This pairing works in streets, on village edges, and along tree lines because the tasks are simple and the sequence is fixed. It scales across sectors, as any unit with a drone, a Bradley, and an Abrams can repeat the same steps with the same cues. The key performance checks are straightforward and visible to any staff officer watching the feed. Measure the time from drone grid to tank fire mission, because shorter delays mean fewer losses at the breach. Track how often the first tank round lands on the assigned point, because fewer follow-up shots mean less exposure. Record crew survival after each breach, because teams that live can repeat the method again in the next block. Log how many smoke canisters are used per push, because too few canisters leave gaps and too many waste tempo. Note how long the IFV can maintain accurate bursts while moving, because that decides whether the squad reaches cover intact. Watch how quickly the dismounts pivot from cover to clearance, because the whole plan depends on movement, not static trades. When these checks look right, the map shrinks for the defender, and the assault keeps momentum without buying it with casualties. When the checks slip, the defender gets angles back, and the approach turns costly fast. For the viewer, the picture is simple even when the tech is not, because the eye can see suppression first and collapse second. For commanders, the picture is a stopwatch and a hit log, because time and accuracy now guard lives better than thicker armor. And as this method spreads, the real test comes on the roads ahead, where armored columns rise or fall on whether the lead vehicle keeps moving under drone and artillery pressure. Convoy ambushes work because FPV drones stop the lead vehicle, and a stopped lead turns a road into a trap. A single hit blocks the lane, dust rises, and drivers behind hesitate while infantry bails out into ditches. Engines idle, turrets cannot traverse cleanly, and formation discipline breaks within seconds. This is where artillery earns the kill, because a stalled line is a fixed target. M777 crews fire on grids sent by small scouts, and the first salvos land before commanders can reorder the column. Gunners bracket the choke, then walk rounds down the file while spotters adjust with short, clear calls. Shrapnel cuts tracks and antennae, and the blast pattern forces crews to shelter inside hulls. Once the line is pinned, the window opens for close work. FPV operators push forward along hedges and field cuts, and they approach from low angles to dodge jammers. Pilots aim for engine bays, turret rings, or open hatches, because these points trigger fire inside the hull. Shaped charges punch through thin plates, and pressure waves pop lids that looked sealed a minute earlier. With mobility gone, the finish becomes a method, not a duel. The sequence is simple but strict. Stop the head, burn the middle, deny the rescue. When the first wreck blocks the path, shells fall in patterns, and follow-on drones pick survivors with short dives. Anti-tank teams hold missiles for stragglers who try to reverse or cut across fields. What looked like a march becomes a salvage problem under fire. Psychology moves just as fast as metal, because crews who see rising smoke tend to abandon vehicles and scatter. Squads split, radios jam, and nobody wants to be the next silhouette in a thermal sight. Morale slips when resupply fails to arrive, and fresh units wait rather than push into a killing zone. The image of a burning lead hull travels farther than any order. Electronic warfare can blunt some attacks, yet teams adapt by flying along tree lines and using short hops between relays. Spotters test lanes with expendable scouts, and only commit strike drones once the beam map looks clean. If jamming intensifies, gunners switch to massed fire to keep the line fixed until new routes open. The aim is to leave no easy exit. Weather matters, so planners time ambushes for dry breaks when batteries hold and optics see. Crosswinds shift smoke, and pilots ride those gaps to slip behind armor plates. Crews note how long a road stays blocked after the first hit, because longer pauses mean better lanes for follow-up fire. Timing, not headline numbers, decides the bill command posts track clear metrics to keep this machine honest. They log the delay from the first FPV strike to full halt, the drones expended per column, and the share of vehicles destroyed within 10 minutes of the stop. They also record how many guns were needed to maintain the choke until the last hull cooled. Those figures determine whether the method scales to the next road. HIMARS matters because it erases high-value air defense assets and opens the sky for everything that follows. Recon drones map radar masts, command vans, and missile launchers, and each grid goes straight into a fire mission. GMLRS flies on a fixed path and lands within a tight circle, so a single strike can remove a node that shields the whole sector. Kill one radar and the umbrella gets holes, and kill the command link and batteries go silent. With the cover thinning, the air picture starts to change fast, which sets the stage for deeper moves. Target selection is a craft, because not all air defenses are equal and not all grids stay valid. Crews look for SHORAD near columns, SAMs near hubs, and repeat emissions that give away habits. They weigh blast needs against collateral limits, and they time salvos to hit while crews reload or rotate. 2 or 3 impacts often beat a larger volley, since spacing avoids overpressure waste and keeps fragments effective. When decisions match the map, one small package can flip a district's risk, which is why timing becomes policy. The payoff shows up in drone survivability, because the window above the front line stays open longer after a radar falls. FPV teams report cleaner routes, spotters report fewer break locks, and loiter times stretch by minutes instead of seconds. Artillery also benefits, as guns can fire without constant counter-battery cues from air defense sensors. Even rotary or low flyers can skim edges for short dashes when the threat ring shrinks. As gaps widen, the tempo of precision work rises, which is how pressure spreads from a single grid. Electronic warfare tries to spoil this plan, yet HIMARS rides inertial and GPS aids that resist routine jamming. Planners adapt by cueing from passive sensors, shadowing emissions, and launching from varied sites to dodge patterns. Decoys also help, since false emitters bait counters while real targets light up to manage the fight. If the defender disperses, the attacker switches to command nodes and power feeds that tie the net together. Hearts and wires break faster than launchers, which is why nerve centers sit at the top of the list. The moral effect rivals the physical effect, because units feel naked when the umbrella stops reporting. Columns delay, resupply slips, and local commanders keep vehicles under trees rather than moving on time. Crews conserve missiles for last-ditch shots, which leaves gaps where drones can roam. Public claims may speak of minor disruptions, yet footage of cold batteries and dark screens tells another truth. When screens go dark, routes get longer and slower, which turns minutes into losses down the line. Staffs track simple KPIs to prove impact because numbers guide ammo and risk. Count air defense systems disabled per week by type and by grid, and record how long the sky window stays open after each hit. Measure the FPV interception rate before and after a HIMARS strike within the same sector. Log average loiter time for reconnaissance drones during those windows, and track counter-battery alerts per hour. If these lines bend the right way, the sky becomes usable terrain, which is exactly what the ground fight needs next. Leopard ambush tactics work because precision fire meets strict discipline, and that pairing turns short openings into decisive kills along road spines and village edges. Leopard crews choose covered hull-down spots near bends, and they stack fields of view so 2 guns can see the same lane without masking each other. Thermal sights mark hot silhouettes through dust, and laser rangefinders give a clean solution before the first round leaves the tube. The lead tank engages an armored target at standoff range, and the wingman waits 1 heartbeat to trap any vehicle that tries to bypass the wreck. A PFSDS defeats frontal plates when aim is stable, and side angles fall even faster when drivers expose torsos while searching for a turnoff. Command nets keep traffic short and calm, and that tone helps gunners follow a rehearsed drill rather than chase noise under pressure. When the fight moves toward houses or workshops, crews swap to HE and punch through walls that hide machine guns or spotters. Blast effects collapse firing points without pushing infantry into doorways, and that saves time for a clean push past the corner. The rare long-range duel shows why standoff matters, since a hit at roughly 1 to 1.5 kilometers ends arguments early. One Leopard centers a clean strike on a turret face, and the second hull immediately displaces to a fresh angle before another contact appears. This fire and shift rhythm lowers exposure because return shots arrive at an empty patch while the gun has already moved. Drivers back down slopes with smoke blooming, and commanders pick a new notch that preserves sightlines without repeating the last silhouette. Sensors, gunnery, and movement lock together, and that lock shortens the time from detection to impact when terrain is tight. Crews measure the interval from lays to trigger in single digits, and they practice to keep the whole cycle inside 12 seconds. First-round hit goals sit above 60% beyond 1 kilometer, and unit logs flag any drop so instructors can fix habits fast. Survivability rises when those numbers hold, because fewer corrections mean fewer seconds under hostile glass and fewer chances for a lucky reply. Urban fringes add clutter, yet ambush geometry still favors the side that pre-ranges intersections and tags likely exits with reference points. Maps mark culverts, berms, and low walls where a hull can hide track while the gun covers a lane with minimal exposure. Observers queue from small drones that drift above tree lines, and those eyes keep score on vehicles that try to slip around the block. When crews must finish a stubborn node, HE delay settings break beams and scatter fragments into stairwells, which removes the need for long clearing drills. Key checks keep the method honest. First shot probability past 1 kilometer, time to fire and shift, and post-ambush crew survival rates by block type. Units also track how many targets fall before the first displacement, and how often smoke screens actually blind optics rather than only mark positions. If these lines trend right, ambushes scale from a single bend to an entire approach, and the road ahead belongs to the side that holds discipline under strain. From those standoff lessons, the fight soon narrows to close angles where flank errors and drone strikes punish heavy hulls that cannot hide their weak spots. Bradley wins close fights because it delivers steady fire while moving, and that balance of control and speed breaks lighter armor fast. The crew keeps the turret stable, the driver holds a smooth line, and the gunner walks short bursts onto the threat without losing sight. A BTR-82A may fire first, yet its 30mm stream drifts under motion while the Bradley's 25mm stays tight and punishing. Sensors cause a quick correction, the coax cuts the gun shield, and the main gun finishes the job before the BTR can reposition. The lesson is simple. Stable fire under motion beats loud fire without aim, which is why the lighter hull folds early in a clean duel. From there, the story shifts to angles, because angles decide life at street level. Flank errors kill tanks because side armor is thin, and support often lags a turn behind. When a Bradley arrives to cover an infantry pullout, the defending tank pivots to face the threat and exposes the hull's ribs. The IFV drags fire with smoke, shifts a lane, and spots the weak plate under the turret cheek while infantry marks the corner. One hard burst pins the crew, a guided shot lands where the armor is soft, and the track locks as the turret freezes mid-swing. No fancy trick is needed. It is timing and geometry, and both favor the vehicle that forces a side view at short range. That is why combined cover matters, because lone armor without a screen becomes a target of opportunity within seconds. The T-90M shows a different risk, since FPV drones punish gaps that steel cannot seal. Operators fly low along hedges, pop up for a 2-second line, and drive a shaped charge into the engine bay or the turret ring. If a hatch is cracked for air, the blast vents inward and pressure lights propellant in a flash. Plumes shoot from seams, fire races under the carousel, and the crew has little time to bail once the cook-off starts. Cages and extra plates help against lazy drops, but an aimed dive still finds the seam between turret and hull. That pattern explains why drones now sit on every checklist, not as a trick, but as a standard tool in the kill chain. Training buys seconds, but seconds also vanish when the sky window opens after an air defense loss. That is where discipline meets luck, and only one of those two can be planned. Command posts track clear numbers to judge progress, since claims do not move risk. They record FPV hit rates on turret rings, hatches, and engine bays by sector and by hour. They log cook-off incidents after confirmed penetrations, and they compare crew survival by tank model and by angle of entry. Teams also measure how many drones are spent per column, because cost per kill shapes the next load plan. If interception rates fall while loiter times rise, planners know the umbrella is thin and columns must split or halt. All of this loops back to the line, because the next clash will turn on angles again, and angles always reward the side that arrives ready. Tanks still matter, but they only live when wrapped in a tight combined arms team, and that team must join air defense, EW, UAVs, and close infantry under one short kill chain. This model cuts exposure, speeds decisions, and turns hard points into brief stops instead of walls. It is a simple rule with hard demands, because seconds beat steel when the handoff is clean and the screen is intact. That is the frame for the next 72 hours. Watch 3 signals to judge momentum, because numbers tell the truth when smoke hides the field. Track FPV density on the main roads, then compare hit rates as columns try to move under pressure. Log how many air defense launchers go dark after each HIMARS strike, then measure how long the sky stays open for drones to work. Record the time a route stays blocked after the lead vehicle is hit, because longer pauses mean deeper losses down the line. If Russia thickens SHORAD and EW and splits convoys, immediate losses may dip and tempo may stabilize. If Ukraine scales FPV swarms and keeps artillery precise, armored pushes will stall early and retreat will come faster than orders. Stay with military force for clear maps, straight numbers, and field-level analysis. Like, share, and subscribe to Military Force today.